Hello and welcome to English 2. I'm your online teacher, Miss Bear. We finished Eleanor Roosevelt's address to the United Nations on the adoption of the Universal Declaration for Human Rights. The last time that we met, you guys were to finish delineating her argument and looking at some of those things, but we are going to continue with our unit on this idea of human rights. And I want to remind you, this is an Engage New York unit from their curriculum that they wrote. And at the end of this unit, you will be writing a writing task. You'll be writing an essay delineating the argument of each of our unit texts. We have finished 2, and we're going to finish the 3rd one sometime this week or maybe the 1st of next week, depending on where this falls in your calendar. So we are starting our 3rd text for this particular unit. So be ready for that. Well, let's look at today's agenda. We're going to be accountable for our homework. We will do a masterful reading. We will do some reading and discussion. We will do a quick write, and then we will finish with a little bit of homework. And you will see the text that we are working with today is the address to the United Nations Youth Assembly, and this is by Malala. And you will learn more. Hopefully you learned a little bit about her last night. So I want you now to turn and talk and share and discuss your argument delineation tool for Eleanor Roosevelt's speech. Good job. I hope you have finished that argument tool out and you store it in your binder and have it ready so when we write the end of the unit task, you are ready and you've got all of your information, you've got everything put together and are ready to look for that shared central claim so that you can make those notes and write that essay. Now I want you to turn and talk with a different neighbor about the research you found on Malala. Fantastic job. Now I want to share some of the information that I have, but I would also like for you to share some of the information that you have. So if somebody will come up and lead a class discussion on the information you found out about Malala. Great job. One thing I do want to add that was not part of the masterful reading, but I think it's important for you to know, is that Malala did end up writing a book, and it's called I Am Malala. And if you want more information about her and her life, it is a fantastically written book. She is an incredible human and has continued to do amazing things even beyond this speech that she gave. And so I want you to be aware of there are still so many things that this young lady has put together. And she was younger than you guys when she gave this speech and when she was injured. And so I want you to think about that and kind of the impact that you might can have on the world around you. So let's continue and let's hear a masterful reading of Malala's speech to the Youth Council for the United Nations. Great job. Now I would like for you to work with a partner, and I want you to reread paragraphs 1 through 6 and answer the questions on your board. Yeah, that did take a little bit more time, I think, than you were expecting, and that's okay. I loved walking around and hearing the back and forth conversations that were happening because those are important. And some of you really did a really good job with thinking about Malala's past and the family that she grew up in. You guys had a lot of different thoughts as you were answering these questions, and I love it. But now I want you to share some of those with the rest of your class. So if I can have a volunteer come up and lead the discussion on the first 3 questions, and then we'll get another volunteer to come up and lead the discussion on the other questions. Share your ideas and your thoughts. Great job. I loved all of the different ideas that were going around. Now I need a volunteer to lead the discussion on the last 4 questions. Remember to share your ideas too. Don't just rely on these masterful answers. Fantastic job. Now I want to remind you, we have not been using the rhetorical impact tracking tool throughout this unit, but you can. You have access to it. And if you've been kind of thinking about all of the other units that we have in this end of the unit task, some of you have been tracking the rhetoric. You may not have been tracking it on that rhetorical impact tracking tool, but you've been writing it in your notebook, and that's good. So some of you may want to consider getting another copy of that tracking tool from your teacher so that you can track that. Because in your quick write, now you've already answered questions about this, I want you to write, how does Malala use rhetoric in paragraphs 1 through 6 to advance her purpose? Great job. Now it's time for your homework for the evening. I want you to use the argument delineation tool to track Malala's argument in paragraphs 1 through 6. And then I want you to read paragraphs 7 through 20, and there it is. Use that rhetorical tracking tool to record the impact of her use of rhetoric in paragraphs 7 through 20. Until next time, happy learning.